Cashless.
12 things that will shock you about the UK. Hi everyone, it's good to have you here on this educative and informative channel. Have you ever been shocked by anything about any country? Today we are exploring 12 things that will shock you about the UK. From the weather to cultural quirks, there is a lot to discover when moving or travelling here. Some of these surprises are delightful, while others might leave you scratching your head. Whether you are planning a visit or a more permanent move, these insights will help you understand life in the UK. Before we dive in, we just have to remind you that don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment down below with your thoughts. 12. Data is so cheap. One thing that often shocks people coming to the UK is how affordable mobile data is. In comparison to other countries, the cost of data plans is surprisingly low. With competitive offers from major networks like EE, Vodafone and 3, you can get a lot of data for a relatively small price. Whether you're streaming videos, using social media or browsing the internet, the abundance of affordable data is a pleasant surprise. This can be a lifesaver for those who rely on their phones for navigation, communication or entertainment. If you're coming from a country where data is expensive, the UK's pricing will shock you. 11. The price of housing. While data may be cheap, housing is a different story. The cost of buying or renting a home in the UK, particularly in major cities like London, is sky high. Even in smaller towns, the housing market is competitive and prices continue to rise. This is one of the biggest shocks for anyone moving to the UK. Renters in particular face fierce competition for decent, affordable properties. The government has introduced schemes to help first-time buyers, but getting on the property ladder is still a challenge for many. The price of housing is a huge factor that often shocks newcomers, especially those from countries with lower living costs. 10. Recycling is a big deal. In the UK, recycling isn't just encouraged, it's a way of life. Local councils are strict about recycling, and many areas have multiple bins for different types of waste, such as paper, glass and food waste. It can be shocking for newcomers to see how detailed the recycling system is. Some councils even issue fines for improper sorting of rubbish, so it's something that people take seriously. While it can seem overwhelming at first, it's all part of the UK's commitment to sustainability and reducing waste. Once you get used to it, recycling becomes second nature. 9. Street musicians everywhere. The vibrant street music scene in the UK is something that takes many people by surprise. In cities like London, Manchester and Edinburgh, you'll find street musicians playing a variety of instruments and genres. These performers, often called buskers, add a unique charm to the streets, and it's common to see people stop to listen or even tip them for their efforts. It's not just the music, the talent level can be incredibly high, with some street performers even gaining fame after being discovered. This lively scene contributes to the cultural vibrancy of UK cities, and it's a delightful shock for those who appreciate music. 8. No air conditioning. Considering how common air conditioning is in many countries, it might shock you that it's not widely used in the UK. Most homes and even many offices don't have air conditioning, and people tend to rely on fans or open windows during the warmer months. This is partly due to the UK's cooler climate, where extreme heat is rare. However, during the occasional heat wave, the lack of air conditioning can be a real shock, particularly for those coming from hotter climates, where it's a necessity. Adjusting to life without it can take some getting used to, but thankfully the cooler UK weather means it's usually not missed. 7. Cashless payments everywhere. Another surprising aspect of life in the UK is how cashless the society is becoming. Whether you're buying a coffee or paying for public transport, cash is rarely needed. Contactless payments with debit and credit cards, as well as mobile payment systems like Apple Pay and Google Pay, are widely accepted across the country. Many businesses even prefer card payments over cash, and you'll find that tapping your card is quicker and more convenient. For those used to carrying cash, this shift to a cashless society can be surprising, but it's a sign of the UK's embrace of digital convenience. 6. Tipping is optional. Unlike in some countries where tipping is expected, tipping in the UK is entirely optional. While it's appreciated, particularly in restaurants, there's no strict obligation to tip service staff. Typically, people leave a tip of around 10 to 15% in restaurants, but it's not as heavily enforced as in other countries. In places like pubs, cafes or taxis, tipping isn't always expected, and many people don't tip at all. This relaxed approach to tipping can be a shock for visitors, especially if they come from countries where tipping is customary in most service scenarios. 5. Regional accents. The UK is home to a rich variety of regional accents, and this can be shocking for newcomers. From the melodic tones of Scotland to the distinctive Scouse accent of Liverpool, the sheer diversity of accents can be surprising. It's said that accents change every few miles in the UK, and that's not far from the truth. Even native English speakers can sometimes struggle to understand strong regional accents, which can take time to get used to. For visitors, this diversity in speech is fascinating, though it might require some careful listening in conversation. 4. Every food tastes bland. If you're coming from a country with a more seasoned cuisine, you might find UK food rather bland. British food has a reputation for being simple, with a focus on ingredients like potatoes, bread, and meat. While British cuisine has improved over the years, many traditional dishes are still quite plain compared to more heavily spiced or flavoured foods from other parts of the world. If you're used to bold flavours, the subtlety of British food can be a bit of a shock, but it's something that can be adjusted to over time, especially with the variety of international restaurants available across the country. 3. Thanking the bus driver. One charming and somewhat surprising aspect of life in the UK is the habit of thanking the bus driver when getting off the bus. It's a small gesture, but it's a common practice across the country. Whether you're in a big city or a rural town, it's considered polite to say thank you to the driver as you leave the bus. This custom might surprise people from other countries where bus drivers are more anonymous, but in the UK, it's seen as a way of showing appreciation for the service. 2. It rains a lot. It's no secret that the UK is known for its rain, but even with that expectation, many people are still shocked by just how much it rains. The UK experiences frequent showers throughout the year, with some regions, like the Lake District, getting particularly drenched. While it's not always heavy rain, the constant drizzle and overcast skies can make it feel like it's always raining. It's essential to always have an umbrella or raincoat on hand, especially if you're planning to explore. For those not used to rainy weather, this aspect of life in the UK can be a bit of a shock, but it quickly becomes part of the daily routine. 1. Nature. One of the most shocking yet beautiful things about the UK is its stunning natural landscapes, from the rolling hills of the Cotswolds to the rugged beauty of the Scottish Highlands. The UK is home to some of the most breathtaking scenery in the world. The country's natural beauty often surprises those who expect it to be all about urban areas and rainy weather. There are national parks, coastal paths, and countryside walks that showcase the UK's natural charm. Whether you're a fan of hiking, photography, or just enjoying the outdoors, the UK's nature is sure to leave you in awe. These 12 surprising aspects of life in the UK reveal the unique quirks and features that make the country so interesting. Would any of these shock you? Please tell us. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.